Hello, and welcome back to Human Behavior Lab. I'm New York, your host and observer. Today, we're going to examine something quite fascinating, a long-held belief in psychology that's being seriously challenged by new research.
Hi everyone, I'm Juan. And New York, I have to say, when I heard about today's topic, I was really surprised. I always thought this was, well, kind of settled science.
That's precisely why this topic is so interesting from a psychological perspective. The relationship between logical thinking and religious belief has been studied extensively, with researchers long claiming that analytical thinking naturally reduces religious faith.
Right, that's what I always heard, that religious people are less logical, or that becoming more educated and analytical makes you less likely to believe. Is that not true?
That's the prevailing narrative. But new research published recently is challenging this assumption in rather significant ways. Let's explore what's happening, and more importantly, why people, both scientists and the general public, have reacted the way they have to this topic. First, let's establish the background. For over a decade, a theory called the dual process model of religious belief has dominated psychological research. This theory suggests that religious belief arises primarily from intuitive thinking, what we might call gut feelings, while analytical, logical thinking suppresses or diminishes such beliefs.
So the idea is that we have two ways of thinking, an intuitive way and a logical way.
Precisely. This framework comes from what psychologists call dual process theory. The theory proposes that humans have two cognitive systems, System 1, which is fast, intuitive, and emotional, and System 2, which is slow, analytical, and deliberate.
Okay, that makes sense. So System 1 is like when you instantly know someone is angry from their face, and System 2 is like when you're solving a math problem?
Excellent example. The old theory proposed that religious belief is primarily a product of System 1, the intuitive, automatic thinking. Therefore, when people engage System 2, the analytical thinking, religious belief should decrease.
I see. So the more you think logically, the less you believe religiously. That's honestly what I've always assumed. Feels intuitive.
And that intuitive feeling is precisely what made this theory so compelling. But we must be careful, what feels intuitive isn't always accurate. Previous studies seem to support this view. For instance, experiments showed that when people were primed to think analytically, through puzzles or logical tasks, they reported slightly lower levels of religious belief.
Wait, so there were actual experiments? People did puzzles and then said they believed less?
Yes, studies used various methods. Some had participants unscramble sentences with analytical words like reason and rational. Others used cognitive reflection tests, problems that require overriding your initial intuitive answer. The results seemed to show that activating analytical thinking reduced religious belief.
That sounds pretty convincing. Why are we questioning it now?
This is where things become interesting. A team of researchers decided to conduct a much more comprehensive investigation. They weren't just trying to replicate previous findings, they wanted to understand the true relationship between analytical thinking and religious belief across different contexts and populations.
So they did bigger studies? More people?
Much bigger. The new research involved thousands of participants across multiple studies and cultures. And here's the key finding. The relationship between analytical thinking and religious belief is far more complex than previously assumed. In many cases, there was no significant relationship at all.
Wait, no relationship? But what about all those earlier studies?
This is an important moment to discuss what psychologists call replication crisis and publication bias. Smaller studies with dramatic findings are more likely to get published. Studies that find no effect often go unpublished. When researchers conducted larger, more rigorous studies, the effect essentially disappeared.
So, the original findings might have been just noise or coincidence?
That's one possibility. But there's another, more nuanced interpretation. The relationship between analytical thinking and religious belief may depend heavily on cultural context, individual differences, and how you measure both analytical thinking and religious belief. It's not a simple cause and effect relationship.
That actually makes more sense to me. Like, I know people who are super logical in their jobs but still go to church every Sunday. It never seemed like a contradiction to them.
Exactly. And this brings us to a crucial psychological insight: human cognition is not monolithic. People can hold seemingly contradictory beliefs simultaneously without experiencing cognitive discomfort. Psychologists call this psychological compartmentalization or cognitive pluralism.
So people can be logical in some areas and intuitive in others?
Precisely. A mathematician might apply rigorous analytical thinking to their work while maintaining deep religious faith. These aren't mutually exclusive because they operate in different domains of life. The new research suggests that analytical thinking doesn't necessarily override religious belief; it can coexist with it quite peacefully.
That's really interesting. But I have to ask, why did the old theory become so popular in the first place?
This is where psychological analysis becomes particularly revealing. The popularity of the old theory tells us something important about human psychology, specifically, about confirmation bias and narrative appeal.
Confirmation bias. That's when we only look for evidence that supports what we already believe, right?
Correct. For people who are already skeptical of religion, the theory that logical thinking reduces faith confirms their worldview. It positions skepticism as the rational, enlightened position. Meanwhile, for some religious individuals, the theory reinforced a different narrative: that faith requires overcoming pure logic, that belief is a virtue precisely because it transcends rationality.
So both sides kind of liked the theory, even though it said different things about them?
Precisely. This is what we might call a self-serving attribution. The theory allowed non-believers to see themselves as more rational, while allowing believers to see themselves as more spiritually elevated. Both groups could find validation in the same theory.
That's fascinating. So the theory survived not because it was true, but because it was comfortable?
Comfortable and narratively satisfying. Humans are what we might call meaning-making creatures. We prefer stories that make sense of the world, that fit into our existing frameworks. A theory that says logic and faith are in conflict is dramatic, clear, and memorable. A theory that says the relationship is complex and context-dependent is accurate but far less compelling.
It's like, a movie needs conflict to be interesting, but real life is messy, eh?
An excellent analogy. The old theory provided a clean narrative: as humanity becomes more educated and analytical, religion will naturally fade away. This narrative aligned with what philosophers call secularization theory, the prediction that modernization inevitably leads to declining religious belief.
But that hasn't really happened, has it? I mean, religion is still pretty huge globally.
Indeed. This brings us to an important psychological insight about belief systems. Religious belief is not a single, simple cognitive state. It encompasses multiple dimensions: emotional experiences, social identity, moral frameworks, community belonging, and existential meaning.
So when we talk about religious belief, we're actually talking about a lot of different things?
Exactly. The new research suggests that analytical thinking might affect some aspects of religious belief while leaving others untouched. For instance, someone might become more skeptical of literal religious claims while still finding deep meaning in religious community and practice.
That really resonates with me. I know people who say they don't believe in the supernatural stuff, but still go to services because they love the community and the traditions.
This is what sociologists call belonging without believing. And it illustrates why measuring religious belief through simple survey questions can be problematic. A person who answers no to "Do you believe in God?" might still pray, attend services, and derive significant meaning from religious practice.
So the whole way we've been studying this might be flawed?
Flawed might be too strong a word, but certainly limited. The new research encourages us to think about religious belief as a multifaceted phenomenon that interacts with analytical thinking in complex ways, rather than as a simple switch that gets turned off by logic.
What about really analytical people, though? Like scientists, aren't they less religious on average?
Studies do show lower rates of religious belief among scientists compared to the general population. However, the reasons for this are complex. It's not simply that analytical thinking destroys religious belief. Factors include self-selection. People who are already less religious might be drawn to scientific careers, and cultural norms within scientific communities.
So it's not that science makes you less religious, but that the scientific community might attract people who are already less religious.
Precisely. And this has important implications for how we think about science communication and the relationship between scientific and religious communities. The narrative that science and religion are inherently in conflict is not supported by the nuanced evidence.
That's actually really hopeful, isn't it? Like, we don't have to choose sides?
Indeed. Many scientists throughout history have maintained deep religious faith. The physicist who proposed the Big Bang Theory, Georges Lemaitre, was a Catholic priest. Francis Collins, who led the Human Genome Project, is a devout Christian. These individuals demonstrate that analytical thinking and religious belief can coexist quite naturally.
So why do we still have this narrative that you have to pick a team?
This is where we must consider what psychologists call identity-protective cognition. When beliefs become markers of group identity, people resist information that threatens those identities. The conflict narrative serves as a boundary marker. It defines who is us and who is them.
So believing in the conflict is almost like a loyalty test?
In some contexts, yes. For certain atheist communities, the narrative that religious people are less analytical reinforces group identity. For certain religious communities, the narrative that faith requires rejecting worldly logic serves a similar function. The new research challenges both of these identity-protective positions.
And I guess that's why this research might be uncomfortable for some people?
Precisely. When research challenges narratives that support our identities, we often experience what's called cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort that arises when our beliefs are contradicted. The natural response is to reject or dismiss the challenging information.
But that would be ironic, right? Rejecting scientific evidence because it doesn't fit what we want to believe.
Indeed, it would be. This is why self-awareness is so crucial in evaluating scientific claims, especially those about human psychology. We must constantly ask ourselves, am I accepting this evidence because it's strong, or because it confirms what I already believe?
This has been really eye-opening for me. I definitely fell into that trap of thinking logical people couldn't be religious. It's kind of embarrassing to realize how much I was oversimplifying.
There's no need for embarrassment. The tendency to simplify complex realities is universal. It's how our brains conserve energy. The important thing is to remain open to nuance when the evidence presents it.
So the takeaway is that human beings are complicated, and our beliefs don't fit into neat little boxes.
Beautifully summarized. The new research doesn't diminish the importance of analytical thinking or religious belief. It simply reveals that the relationship between them is far more nuanced than we assumed. Humans are capable of holding multiple ways of understanding the world simultaneously, and that capacity is not a flaw but a feature of our remarkable cognitive architecture.
I love that. We don't have to be just one thing. We can be analytical and spiritual, logical and faithful. That feels freeing.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of human cognition. Remember, understanding why we think the way we think is the first step toward thinking more clearly. Until next time, observe deeply and analyze thoughtfully.
See you next time, everyone. And don't forget, being curious about why we believe what we believe is the most logical thing we can do.